Um, Hi everybody. Not too long ago, I made a tutorial on how to do animation, character animation in Adobe Animate, and people seem to respond to that. Really helpful. Another thing that probably can confuse people a lot in general is just building a character and setting it up for animation. So I'm going to make another tutorial along those lines right now. So what I have here is a character, as you can see there, her name is Cinia. And Cinia is from a comic book series of mine called Combat Fairies. And that is on Comixology, if anybody's interested in checking that out. And I am in the early stages right now of doing a animated Combat Fairies short. Probably going to 3 to 5 minutes is the goal. Maybe it'll end up being a little bit longer, probably 10 minutes. Probably under 10 minutes, no matter what. And so right now I'm in the process of building the characters for that short. So I'm gonna walk you guys through how I'm setting up Cinia so that you can use that as reference to build your own characters. I got water off the side, so every once in a while I might take a drink. Hopefully it doesn't sound disgusting. Here's a test run, we'll find out. Now you'll see a couple notes right off the bat before I get started here is you'll see that I have all these different angles. I will record myself making her at every angle, including some angles you don't see here because she's an asymmetrical character. So I'm going to need to do, once I finish the 3/4 version, at some point I'm going to need to flip that and make adjustments for the asymmetrical details so that if she's seen at the other angle, she still makes sense. When I do the other angles though, I'm going to speed it up because this will be a relatively long process. It's going to be at least a few hours. I'm hoping I am able to build Cinia in an hour or less, so that part of it will be real time and hopefully it won't be too hardcore to sit through, but you can always skip ahead to the parts that you're struggling with if that's the case. I'm going to mention a couple other things off the top as well. One, it actually just so happens that her hair is wrong. Here, it's actually, her hair comes off this side. So when I do the flip version, this is how the hair should look. When she's facing this direction, it should be here. So when I make it, I'm going to trace it as is, but when I do the flipped version, I'll alter it so that this one's on the right side and the other one's kind of the proper side, if that makes sense. Also, I'll elaborate more when I get to it, but when it comes to things like hands and feet, they change angles very frequently, so it's good to have like a bank of different hand shapes and foot shapes. And you can't make kind of like puppet assets out of those things because they move around too much and too articulate. It's not really going to work. So you kind of mostly have to just pop from one to the other, and then if you're close enough that you're seeing it, the transition a little bit more, then you might do some in-betweens. And on occasion, you might do a hand puppet, but only if we're looking at it so closely that we don't, and only at one consistent angle that you can kind of get away with it. For the most part, we need to pop through. And I've done a lot of this. I recently did a movie featuring characters that do a lot of stuff. So I have kind of a ready-made hand symbol that inside of it has a bunch of different hand poses. So I'm actually going to, when it comes to doing the hands and the feet, I'm going to pull in those pre-made assets and change the colors and stuff to match. She's got different jewelry and everything. I'll have to include that. But the main thing is, it's helpful to have all these different hand positions at the ready in case you need one when you're animating. But it also can be time consuming to draw out a hand that you might only see for a couple frames at a time. And if this is the first character you've ever built, you don't really have much choice. You gotta build them as you need them. When I did that movie, I started out just with the basic hand at a few different angles. Over the course of making it, I would create new hand assets as I needed them, but when I did that, I would add them into this bank so that they're ready to be reused later on when I need to. So I'm basically going to cash in on the work that went into that movie by having her ready to use all these different hand shapes. It's possible that some details of those hands from that other character won't match her design exactly. Like you might, if you look closely, you might be like, oh, that knuckle seems a little too defined for her features or something like that. And if that hand were to ever appear in a close enough situation where that is going to be evident, then I would tweak it accordingly to make sure that that's not obvious. But 9 times out of 10, you're probably not going to actually be able to tell the difference. So basically, I'm just taking advantage. It's a way to keep things a little bit more efficient and stuff. Also, I won't do this in the tutorial because it's going to be a long enough tutorial as it is, but ultimately inside the head comp, I'll probably go ahead and make a couple eye blinks and eye squint, have her head turn one direction than the other. And that way, every time I'm setting up a shot and I bring that symbol in, it already has a ready-made head turn and blinks and stuff, so I don't need to redo that anytime it's needed. And I'm more apt to actually do a head turn if I don't need to do it. I can adjust it and change this timing and all that kind of stuff. So those are just some general notes that help you stay efficient when you're actually working, because when you're doing stuff, especially on an independent level, efficiency is always smart. Also, at the same time, if you know exactly what your character is going to be doing over the course of your project, whatever that project might be, and you know that you're never going to see the character at any angle other than 3/4 or profile or front, whatever that is, there's no reason to build the other angles, right? Like, this character is going to be in a very action-heavy scene. She's going to be jumping around, she's going to be flipping around, flying around. She's going to be swinging a sword the whole 9 yards. So I need to have her ready to go at every available angle. But that doesn't necessarily apply to everything. It's also always a good habit to be in to set up your character for maximum movement so you break up every single part. But again, if you're creating a character that's only going to appear in like one shot, or they're always going to be behind a bar or something like that, and you're never going to see their legs, then maybe you don't need to do their legs. Or if you know that character is only existing for one purpose, they're just going to be standing on a sidewalk, they're going to deliver one line of dialogue and that's it, then maybe you still have to draw their legs if you're going to see them, but maybe you don't need to break them up. If you break them up, you have the freedom to decide on the fly, actually I'm going to have this character walk off, and you can do that. If you don't break them up, then you're kind of stuck with keeping them still. But if you know what they're going to do, you can definitely get away with doing less, right? That's an opportunity to cut some corners, and there's enough work that goes into any kind of animation as it is, so when you know you can get away with cutting a corner, there's nothing wrong with doing that. Like I said though, Cindy is going to need all the angles, so I'm going to walk you through doing the 3/4 pose, which if you're only going to do one angle, the 3/4 one is usually the best one, because it's what's seen the most often. And then I'll do the others, but I'm going to fast forward through that part. So, also apologize again for the coughing. Hopefully my sound quality is at least a little bit better than last time, but I have a persistent cough that I assure you is nothing serious. Depending on at what point you're watching this video, you might wonder, but it's nothing like that. I have this kind of sort of asthmatic cough that tends to come in this time of year. Sometimes if I get a cold, and it aggravates things, it sometimes takes a little bit longer to go away. And that's annoying, but I can deal with it. So anyway, so let's start. Also, by the way, you probably noticed this too, you might be wondering over here, this is just pulled out of the original kind of Bible for the comic. That's only there for color reference. I'm not going to match the style of shading exactly because it won't necessarily translate super well to the animation, but I want to try to get the colors as close as possible, so I just brought this in so I can color pick when I need to, which you'll see me doing periodically. So let's dive in, and let's do it, because this is going to take a bit of time, and we don't got all day, so let's do it. So I'm going to make a new layer. Now, I'm using the straight line tool. I would recommend using either the straight line tool or the pen tool. That is the way this kind of stuff is typically done. It limits the number of points that you have to deal with, which can sometimes make things a little bit easier to edit later on if you need to. Also, in the early days of Adobe Animate, when it used to be called Flash and it was meant more for the web, it also helped with bandwidth issues and things like that. It tends to give you a nice clean line. So I recommend using either straight line or pen. A lot of people prefer the pen. I tend to use the straight line. I don't know why that is, but it's just what I do. But ultimately, what you use is up to you. You can use a paintbrush or something like that. You can also make assets on separate layers in another program and bring them in. But if you're doing a style that can be achieved in Adobe Animate, then I definitely recommend doing that. So I'm just scrolling over here slowly. So I can color pick her skin like I said I was going to. Up there. So just zoom out a little bit faster. So what I'm making right now is her, what I tend to call eye meat, which I know sounds disgusting, but that's what I tend to call it. So basically it is the bit of skin that goes around your eye and it has a hole cut in the middle of it, which is where our eye looks through, which is a really disgusting way to describe it also, but it is what it is. So there is our eye and meat. So I'm going to grab this. I'm hitting F8 as the hotkey. I'm going to be doing it a lot for this first one just to show you. I can also right click and go convert to symbol. I'm going to be adding tones to her as well, but I'll do that after her initial build is finished. So I'm going to call this Cinia 3/4. I don't think it likes splashes, so I'll just put 3/4. I1. And lock that. I probably should be labeling this, but it's going to ultimately get labeled automatically later on, which I'll explain later. It's a good habit to be in to layer it, but I'm gonna be a rebel. Let's just call it that. So now underneath I'm gonna do the eye white. So let's. If I want to see what I'm doing through this part I already drew, I can turn the wireframe on so I can see through. And now I'm gonna draw this like that, and like that, and we'll get rid of that bit right there because you don't need it. So basically this is just to fill in that hole. So when we look through it, we're seeing what looks like the white upper eye. So I'm going to hit F8 again. Cinia 3/4. Eye white. 1. You could call it left or right, but if you flip it, it's not going to be left or right anymore. It's going to be something different. So, and we got to do her iris. Her iris is a specific color as well. So let's. Oops. Like that. When we do this sped up part later, that kind of stuff is going to be really annoying to look at probably, but I probably won't be doing as much because I won't need the color reference as much then. So, why is it not? Oh, hold the wrong button, that's fine. Iris. And actually the sketch has her looking over here. I'm going to put it over here just to be consistent, and then I'm going to copy and paste that. Control C, Control V, oops. You know what? Hang on. Control C, Control Shift E. There we go. And then I'm going to change that to black and shrink it down to make. And it's going to be offset a little bit because we're at 3/4, so it's not going to be dead center. Like that, and I'm going to grab it. F8. Cinia 3/4 pupil, and I know it includes iris and stuff, but whatever. Let's keep it simple. I'm gonna type out so much, right? I'm gonna make a new layer. I'm gonna do her eyelid, which might not be super clear in the drawing on your screens there, but I designed this character, so I know it's there. So we start with a square. When it actually comes time to animate an eye blink, I would break this down so that it's not a symbol, and you just shade between on it. But for right now, because it'll be easier when I'm combining things to make it a symbol. So F8 again. Cinia 3/4 lid 1. Like that. I'm going to layer on top of everything now. I know you can't see much right now, but it'll be, well, actually, let's just show you for the sake of learning. So there we got that much. So now I'm going to add, on the layer on top of everything, I'm going to add her eyelashes. So let's see what I'm doing. And her eyelashes are big and thick. That. She is a fairy after all. That. That. That's pretty good. You might notice too, some of these drawings are super rough. It's to give me proportional references, to keep them consistent, but I know the characters well enough I can improvise some details if I wasn't very clear in the drawing. F8. Cinia 3/4 lash 1. There we go. Next up, let's do her eyebrow. Like that, like that, like that, and like that. And let's zoom back out so I can see what color her eyebrows are. Here they're black. but a lot of times in the comic themselves they appear like dark purple like her hair, so I'm just gonna improvise a little bit and do a darker purple. And again, F8. Cinia. 3/4, brow, 1. Reminder too, by the way, guys, when you're converting stuff to symbols, make sure you grab it all. Like, if you click in the middle, you won't select the lines. You want to make sure you got everything in there. So there's a complete eye and eyebrow. Let's do the others now. Keep that one visible. See what I'm doing? I like that sort of color now too. So. This is for other eye meat. So this one, because it's 3/4 view, we're seeing a bit of an edge, so I can't just do the blank skin. And also, I don't think I actually explained this when I did it the first time, but I was kind of going on autopilot a little bit there. I want, when all these parts are together, obviously we want to look like your face is all one piece, even though we know that it's not. So this red line is a way to block out the shape, so I can fill it in with the skin color. But I can then delete the red. And I purposely do a different color from the main line work, because I can double click on it and it's going to select all of the attached lines that are the same color. But if I do it with black and I do that, I'm going to delete stuff I don't want to delete. So you'll see me do quite a bit of that. So if that didn't really make sense, I'll explain it again soon. Alright, Cinia 3/4 I2. Lock it, wireframe it. Underneath, we're going to do the eye white. That shape doesn't have to be pretty, just needs to fit inside there. Cinia 3/4, eye white 2. Lock it, wireframe it. Always lock your layers when you're done, because if you don't, you will always end up drawing on the wrong layer. No exceptions. No matter what you do, it will happen. I guarantee it. So our eyelid now. Also, by the way, when you're learning how to do this stuff, the character build is probably one of the most monotonous and frustrating things. But the more you do it, the faster you get at it. And eventually you might even have some fun with it. And the more you animate as well, the more you'll appreciate why you want to set up certain things in certain ways. I'm going to copy and paste this pupil. I'm just going to find it. This is the reason why labeling is helpful, which I didn't do, but you're going to see why it's going to bother later on. Paste it. Oh. Basically, I'm outside the canvas area right now. So if I paste something, it goes way the hell out of the way. If I go Control-Shift-V, it'll paste it in the same place I copied it from, which is right near there, so it's working. So 2, and then let's do the lashes. Normally when I'm doing this kind of stuff, I would have either a podcast going or I would have like music blaring or something. So this is weirdly silent. I will put some music in the background for you guys watching it. But for me right now, it's a little brutal if I'm being honest. Let the talking place. Talking to my imaginary audience. Again. Cinia 3/4 lash. Nice lash. And then we'll do an eyebrow there too. Again, I'm improvising a little bit. What I know about the character. Things I might have missed in the sketch. Cinia, 3/4. Brow, 2. There we go. And we can see her eyes fully intact now. So let's do the rest of her. The eyes, by the way, are by far the most complicated part of all of this, I think. It's what seems to confuse people the most. In fact, before I continue on, let's talk about why they're set up that way. The reason for that is you have to always remember you're going to animate this. So in the drawing, I can't see her entire pupil, but that doesn't matter. I still need the entire pupil because at some point that eye is going to move, and I need to make sure when it does, I can see the rest of it, right? And so I need to have that entire thing there. And when it moves over to the side, I don't want to be restricted that it always has to stay along this black edge. I want to be able to move it down because that's how eyes work, right? So if I give my eye white one layer, the pupil on the layer above it, and then the eye meet on the layer on top of that, then I can move it around freely. And the reason this extra skin is here is to hide the pupil when it's falling outside of that area. So it's all to fake an anatomically accurate eyeball, basically, no matter how stylized the character might be. And the eyelids are separate so they can go down. The lash is separate so they can move down with the eyelid, but they need to be on a separate layer so that the eyelashes are above the eye shape and the eyelid is underneath the eye shape. So anyway, let's get back to it. So with that, let's do the nose. I also mentioned too, if you are eagle-eyed enough to notice inconsistencies between the color drawing and the sketches, that's because the color drawing was from the early stages of the comic, and as I got more into it, I made adjustments to certain proportions and things like that. So, so the sketch is more accurate to what the fairies should really look like. And I can't script, but that's fine. So there's her nose. Let's see, 3/4 nose. We don't want that. Let's do a layer underneath that again. Now let's do the mouth. Start going faster and faster, probably as this goes. Need to reference, by the way, I'm holding control and the mouse wheel to zoom in and out. To be honest, I was so used to using the magnifying glass that I forgot there was a short, easier way to do that until somebody else pointed it out, or asked me about it actually, and it reminded me in class the other day. So shout out to Eve for remembering that. Just that, there we go. Alright, grab that. Cinia, 3/4 mouth. Underneath that, we're going to do the jaw. The jaw needs to be separate from the rest of the head so it can move up and down when she talks. A lot of cartoon characters don't have that, even when they're animated traditionally. A lot of times the jaw just stays there and the mouth moves up and down. That is basically just a result of TV limited animation where they try to use health cells as much as possible. So they would draw the head just once, and then they would just redraw the mouth. Flintstones did that a lot and stuff. But when you apply that, and the Flintstones they get away with it, but if you apply that to a more realistic, anatomically accurate character, it tends to look really weird. And I understand it as a time-saving measure, but with when you're doing it this way, it doesn't really take much added effort to have the jaw going up and down, so we'll set it up accordingly. Cinia, 3/4 jaw. I'm also going to make a separate mouth comp that combines these two. So I'm going to select both of them, hit F8, and I'm going to go Cinia 3/4 mouth comp. So when I do that, I double click on it, now they're both in there. I can separate them on separate layers by right click, distribute to layers. And now they're separate. I'm not going to get into lip sync and stuff in this one. I will ultimately be adding mouth shapes inside so that she can react accordingly and stuff. But I won't put it in this video. I might do another video where I talk about lip sync sometime. That. I'm going to hide. Now we're going to do the skull. Sounds creepy when you word it that way, but that's what it is. It is a skull. I'm just going to do a big circle. Skulls are not actually perfect spheres. If you feel the side of your own head, you'll see they get pretty flat on the sides, but for our purposes, this will work fine. Like that. Grab that. Cinia 3/4 skull. I'm going to lock that. I'm going to hide that though and that one. And in between, I'm going to do her ear. Giant fairy ear, by the way. There we go. Fill that in. This is a weird thing that happens every once in a while. If the line merges just perfectly, it actually becomes one. I just change the color to black to fix that. Access that too. So there's her ear done. 3/4 ear. Oh, you know what? She's got an ear stud that goes there too. So let's do that as well. Let's go over here, color pick that. Remember, when you make a symbol, it is not too late to edit it. You just need to double click on it. Since I'm already on a symbol layer anyway, let's double click. Or sorry, yeah, create a new layer, and we'll add it right here. Like that, and I'm going to circle tool as well to kind of apply that little bit that kind of goes into her here. Too. And we're also going to need to, on the layer underneath it, we're going to see the other side of that stuff. Something like that. You know what? That's a little on the big side. It's a little bit smaller. I drew it pretty big in the sketch, but I don't think I ever drew it that big. That way. Alright. And she also has an earring down here, so let's deal with that too. She's a circle tool. She actually has 2 earrings. Fairies are very into jewelry. Just so you know. If you weren't already aware of that, and adjust this a little bit so it's a bit more of a point. I'm also going to take this. See? There we go. There's her earring. Slightly shorter. This is another thing, by the way, the drawing version, the color version. Earrings much smaller, but there we go. Just put that there. I might. Okay, and then there's two of them actually. So I'm going to take this. This is on a separate. It's on the same layer right now, but it's going to end up on a separate layer later on. That behind me. And for her other ear, by the way, I'm going to ultimately just be copying and pasting this ear and the earring as well. Like that. Let's go do her hat. The hat is actually going to need to be set up. It's a few different pieces. And that's because one half is visible on top of her entire head, and the other half wraps around behind it, so we do it too. And when we animate it, that makes things slightly more complicated, but her head is going to be static inside of the head comp, probably most, if not all the time, so it's not actually a big deal. It can be a big deal for other articles sometimes, but this is. So we got that. Let's close it off with the red line. And let's color pick the hat. Zinnia, 3/4 hat, one. Just one part of the hat. Got that. We'll lock that. Underneath it, let's do her hair. We need to do her hair slightly differently as well because it needs to be behind her ear, but it also needs to be in front of her eyes, and her eyes need to be on top of her ear. So we need to do a little bit more work with that. Actually, I'm gonna bring this hat down a tiny bit as well. Just sit there. And now we go here. So let's just do like a chunk of hair basically, and then we're gonna add other. No reason that it has to come with a scalp since you can't see it under the hat, but no reason it can't. So if I do it, I'm ready in case I decide to move that hat more. If you're doing something for a feature film or an ongoing series, then I would definitely make your characters as articulated and animatable as possible. Because even though you might think they're never going to do something, you never really know. So I would only cut corners if it is for a specific short or something that you know that it's not going to do anything more than a certain thing, or it's only going to appear in one scene in the entire thing, you know. Okay, so you grab that. Zinnia 3/4 hat hair, we'll call it. That, and then jump ahead all the way to the top stack here. And let's add these pieces of hair coming down. That one. And I'm gonna do this one. And this one. And let's also do one here. We'll stop the drawing. So I'm just gonna curve these to position. Use my red line to close them off. Red line, I said, not white. Red, 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 red. That. Get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of those two. Also that one. I gotta convert each one of these, so I'm gonna grab that one. Cinia, called Bang, Bang 1. Cinia, Bang 2. Cinia, Bang 3. The reason I'm using the lasso is because these are all on the same layer, of course. I want to make sure I only select one at a time. And Cinia, Bang 4. I didn't say 3/4 specifically because I'm going to reuse these for all of our angles probably. Let's see how things are looking here. Okay. Let's do the other ear really quick. Grab the ear. And grab the earrings. Control C. New layer under everything. Control Shift B. Bounce it over here. Right click. Transform. Flip horizontal. And we're almost there. That. As well. Okay. I'm going to do this piece of hair in two different ways. I'm going to do one that I layer on top of everything and it comes down. And I'm going to do another one that goes behind everything that goes behind her head. It's a little bit of a cheat in the same way that Mickey Mouse's ears don't actually make sense, but so yeah, I'll do that first and then I'll do that missing part of her hair. So let's lock everything again, go all the way up to the top, and do that first. Her hair, in this sense, is kind of complicated. Probably not too often you would have to approach hair in exactly this way. Off that bit. We don't want it to be obvious it's two separate pieces, so having some open color but it doesn't have outlines is helpful. So there's that. While I'm at it, I'm going to add a couple extra adding some additional hair details later on when I add shading. emphasized. I guess we'll call it hair texture. I don't know if that's the right word for this. That, something like that. The line work we do in the comic, I get pretty extensive sometimes with the lines in the hair. So I kind of want to have something reminiscent of that, but I also need to be realistic with how it's going to look when it's moving, things like that. And we'll do a couple more here as well. Her hair is a bit of a pain in the ass, I guess, but most of, a lot of these pieces I can reuse. So, Zinnia, 3/4 front hair piece, and then lock that, wireframe it. You're gonna wireframe actually everything except for my reference, and then I'll layer behind everything, and we'll do that other bigger chunk of hair. That's gonna be doing something like this. By the way, too, if you're making a character just for the purposes of learning, I don't know that I would recommend a character like Zinnia necessarily. She's got a lot of shit going on. I've only finished making 2 of the other fairies so far for this short, and they've got a lot of little details, and they're all very asymmetrical, and a lot of technical challenges that I haven't had to deal with in quite a while on character build, actually. So they've been going a little bit slower than intended. Or expected, anyway, I should say. You have to be careful when you do this kind of line work, because once it intersects with an existing line, it's going to create a new point, and it's going to want to bend in a different way, so you got to be careful. Alright, let's do one more actually. And then I'll do one that goes down there. One more. All right. Yep. Zinnia, 3/4 front hair. Piece 2. Now I think, unless I'm forgetting something, the only thing we have left to do on her head comp is that extra piece of her hat that wraps around, which is not too complicated. So that like that, like that, and like that. I think I'm going to alter that line a bit on the other version to make what I'm doing here make a bit more sense. Speaking. So we gotta fix all the way there, actually. Zinnia, 3/4, hat, 2. Okay. Let's unlock everything except for the bottom 2 layers, which are the reference stuff. And I'm gonna combine all of this into a head comp. So I got everything selected, F8, Zinnia, 3/4, head comp. Now everything is together. And this way I can, when I'm animating, or I can move, bounce around and all that kind of stuff, and then I can double click on it and do more animation inside, which would include eye blinks and nose or wheels if I wanted to, earrings jiggling around, hair flipping around, mouth moving. So when I double click on it, everything inside of here is on one layer. But because they're all symbols, if I didn't make them symbols, they would all merge and I'd lose all my layering and it would be horrible. But I did that. They're all symbols, so now that I'm in here, with everything selected, right click and go distribute to layers. And now inside of that head comp, everything is on a separate layer, which needs to be in order to animate, and everything got named after the symbol that I called it. So, again, there's pretty good to go. Another step you have to do before you animate is always get your anchor points in the right spot. So use the transform tool, click on something, this hair needs to swing from there. So I'm going to move the anchor point there. This hair needs to also swing from that same anchor point over there. All these little bangs or tendrils of hair need to swing from the top as well. I don't know that the ear will ever move, but if it does, it's going to move from there. So we'll do that on both of them, which happens what we got. Earrings already moved. I don't know the nose is ever going to wiggle, but if it does, it's going to be from there. And that's probably all I need to worry about. I'm going to be doing that extensively again with the other body parts of the movies. Alright, so there is phase 1. The head, by the way, is probably by far the most complicated part to deal with. The rest, by comparison, is going to go a lot faster. So now that I've done that, everything is in one symbol that is now on the top. So all these layers underneath, where the circle is empty, are blank. So I can delete those. I'm just going to delete them all. I'm going to delete all but one because I want to start drawing new stuff on it. But like that. So I'm going to lock it. And I'm going to turn the wireframe on, at least for now. And we're going to just crank now and try to get all the other body parts done. So the next up is her neck. So I'm going to just... And now one thing to remember, and a lot of people seem to forget this, is again, like I said before, with the pupil and stuff, these things are going to move. You're going to animate them. That's the whole reason we're making this. So you need to make sure that even something that isn't visible is going to be visible if something moves to expose it. So with the neck, probably don't need quite this much, but it doesn't hurt to give myself that much. So that when if she looks way up, you're still going to see the complete neck underneath there. And the same thing goes with this back arm. If I were to just trace over the shape of her arm and then I move it, then there's a big hole missing in her arm, right? And we don't want that. So just think about the reason you're doing this. I mean, that's good advice, honestly, for anything. Just think about, like, if you need to do a thing, ask yourself why that thing is necessary. And that often will make it obvious what you need to do. But basically, this character is going to move. Things need to be separated. Everything that's going to move independently needs to be on a separate level. And everything needs to be there fully intact so that if it moves and becomes visible, even if it's not right now, you can see it. So, Zinnia, 34, neck. Hide that, layer underneath, and we're going to go do her upper body now. So kind of right about there. I'm going to start with this shoulder holster strap here. If I need to add an anchor point, which I do, hiding underneath the pen tool there is add anchor point. So if we do that, just click there, we'll add a point to give a little bit more freedom to bend it around the way that I want to. And now, I'm gonna add that little buckle afterwards. Just a bit here. Draw her collarbone here a little bit lower than I had in the original, so that should probably be more accurate. And we're gonna go up here, go around here. The chest, torso area is probably the second most complicated of the average character, and that is because the shape tends to be a little more defined. You'll notice the limbs, not counting the hands and stuff, tend to be almost, they're basically just modified rectangles. It's a lot easier. So there's a strap over here. And remember again, think ahead, think about what might move. So if you have a loose piece, like this holster needs to be on a separate layer because it might swing around. If Cynia had larger breasts, I would probably separate those so they could jiggle or bounce when it made sense to. Doesn't mean they have to always be bouncing all over the place, but it just means that occasionally it happens. It's the way business works. Now she's got this kind of ninja-inspired, almost bandaging wrapped around her. To be totally honest, I don't fully understand it. Some of the character design traits of the Combat Fairies are inspired by some 90s comic stuff. Originally, before I had a storyline idea for them, they were meant more as like a parody, just image, you know, that had a needless amount of detail and gadgets and pouches and bullets and things like that. And they're fun designs, so I stuck with that when I actually applied a plot to it. But initially, some of that stuff was there for that reason, and that's sort of where some of this bandaging comes from. Although Cynia is a much more subdued character design than her other fairy friends. Stitching, and I gotta have something that goes in there as well. And I'm gonna scoop that down pretty quick because it needs just to keep it out of the way of the arm. Which might be a little bit cheap, but I think it's gonna be fine in the end. So we don't really care. Again, just for the hell of it. Get rid of that extra line. I'll join up well with her lower body. Actually, you know what? I take it back. Let's include that line. And let's also include this, because that is technically the way a rib cage would work. And the rib cage should not be bending unless it's broken. To be severely broken at that, actually. It's going to bend. That, yeah, that's weird. Go like that, let's go like that. And that one as well. close it off. Now I skipped the buckle right there initially because I just thought I was going to make this curve a little bit harder. I kind of regret it now. I should have drawn it right off the bat. So I'm going to add it, but I'm going to do it after I make a symbol out of it, so I can do a separate layer and I'll just merge it. So you notice the gun holder's on a different side, that's because I changed something later on. Oh, shit. And we need a bandage. I probably will reference this a little bit more for the details on the holster, because that did stay consistent, but I left that kind of missing from it. Yep. F8. Cinia. Torso. I'm not defining 3/4 anymore. I might have done it in the neck, but I haven't. I can't remember. I'll explain why that is later on. And then I'm going to double click and just going to add that buckle or something like that. Bit of improvising here. Let's make it three-dimensional. Whoa! Look at all that 3D-ness happen. Lines like that. Oh, weird shit up foot. And we'll delete these lines like that. And there's a big purple circle in the middle of it, right like that. And we got a line going across like that, and then it continues over there, and then it goes down like that. And we're going to curve it there because physics or something. And I guess let me go over here. Line dash go in the other direction. I think I might shrink this buckle a little bit though. Maybe just wing it for this specific purple shade. Yeah, let's shrink this a tiny bit. Oops. Like that. Lock it, wireframe it, new layer. Okay, I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna trace this off and use that. Just the holster. The holster did change a little bit, but the zipper and stuff is still supposed to be there, so I'm gonna copy that. I'm gonna just use red lines for now. I'll change them to black after so we can see what I'm doing. So the biggest change is no way. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make it an empty holster for now though, because I'm going to be making the props a separate thing altogether. So I'll leave out the gun itself, but I'll make the holster as you can see it. Wow. Probably gathered this from watching me at this point. But I'll say it now anyway, because I can't think of it. Try to avoid drawing like one line and then bending it and then drawing the next one, because that will be slow as all hell. Let's see, I don't know. Save yourself. Zipper. Now technically, I should be putting the zipper handle on a separate layer so that it can jiggle. But I'm gonna totally admit to skipping that right now, because that is a detail that I don't think anyone's gonna notice if it's missing. But they will notice if it's there and it's not jiggling. Or will they? Actually, you know what? No, I will include it. I'm gonna do a trick with that. I'm gonna show you that. Because as I'm saying that, I'm thinking about how disappointed I would be if I caught on to that detail. If I was a devoted Combat Fairies fan, I'm excited to see them animate for the first time. I would be just put that there. While I'm at, I'm gonna do a couple lines, apply some wrinkles here and there. Also need to add a little more girth to this. Paper thin, leather or something, some sort of fairy material. All right, and now leather itself, like that. Let's fill in there with black. Let's select all that and change that to black. And there we got that. I'm going to get more tones and stuff, of course, but there's a start. So I'm going to go Cinia holster. And now I'm going to double click on it, make a new layer, and I'm going to add a little tag thing. So basically what's going to happen is this thing will move freely and nothing's going to be walked to it. So most of the time it probably will be frozen, but I have the freedom if I am creating a shot where it's more prominent that I can still animate it. Like that, and then cut a hole in the middle of it. Cinia, holster, zipper. Move the anchor point right now so I don't forget later on. Probably will for this kind of detail. And now let's take this over here. It's probably not quite the right scale. Well, it's not too far off. Let's flip it. Toss it in there. You're gonna make it a little bit bigger, but not much. There we go, there's our shoulder holster. Like that. So let's lock it, let's wireframe it, jump underneath her upper body, and continue with her midriff. So, back in the line. Can't see it, but she does have a belly button and a belly button ring, or stud, I guess it technically is. The fairies love their jewelry. red line to close it off. Oh, forgot to bring all of her gold is the same color. Also, let me check something on up here. Her neck is in a weird spot. Let's fix that neck. I tend to exaggerate the thinness of the neck on a lot of my characters, but it should be connected somewhere more back there. Alright, midriff. Zinnia, 3/4. Midriff. How the hell do you spell that? There we go. Oops. And underneath that, we're gonna do her pelvis. Probably need to do pelvis. That's going to include this kind of like, it's like bandage on underwear. The belt will be on a separate layer, and then these other skirt type things hang down and come out from underneath that. So let's start out with a circle. The shape of those hips. Like that. Probably gonna do something there. And then I'm really gonna see this line, but I'm gonna use it. Just in case it ever actually does become somewhat visible, it'll look like it is part of the plan. And then here I'm going to guess one more again, just in case it accidentally becomes visible and we add some coverage. And I'm just sort of like, well, be careful. I don't want it to look like a camel toe or anything. I just want it to look like there's some thickness to it. The fabric, I mean. Awkward. There we go. And anatomy. Skin, we got skin. We got skin. Bandage straps. Cinia. Pelvis. Lock that. Hide that. On a layer on top of it, let's do this belt thing. Belt-ish thing. don't think this technically is a belt, but I'm gonna call it one. Cinia belt. Lock it, wireframe it underneath. We're gonna do this piece and this piece. We're gonna do them simultaneously. By the way, something that I haven't been doing is I never drop the opacity on this reference image, but I could if I wanted to. If I right click here and I go properties, transparent. I haven't found it necessary with this. I can still see what I'm doing pretty clearly, but I can definitely see that being a pain in the ass for other people, so there's a way to fix that. Just so you know. Skirt 1. Cinia skirt 2. Lock it, wireframe it. Now we're going to do her legs. This leg has another holster on it with straps. This one has a tattoo on it. So, because they're hidden under here, I can kind of close them off completely, so I'm going to... Right at the top of the thighs. So this is for thigh. And again, you can see I am creating parts of it that are going to be hidden. I don't know if they'll still be hidden when she's moving around. It's not that big of a deal to add excess stuff. It's a much bigger deal to try to fix it later on when you can think ahead and you're rehearsing yourself. Right. Let's go ahead and do these strap things, and also too the buckles that are on the strap are the same design as what is on her holster. So I'll copy and paste that. Add a little bit of girth to this, I guess. Not much for a bit. Go ahead and color this all in. And you know, I'm going to purposely put this on a separate layer because when I'm doing other versions of it, that might make things easier. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this. Cinia thigh 1. And now let's go up it. That. And like that. There we go. Actually, you know what? We'll also add the holster thing that she's got there as well. It's actually for a knife. So let's go in here. Do that in the same layer as well, or same symbol rather. There. And this I'm going to do purely from memory. Fun fact, and I hope this isn't a spoiler, she never actually at any point used this. Or at least in the current 12-part volume 1. That might change when I eventually do volume 2. Which I'm hoping to do before this year's end. Well, we'll see. And also, I still have some details to work out with this short that I'm planning. So maybe I'll even decide how to finally use it here, so I'm going to keep that knife separate for that exactly. But I'll make it in a second. Cine knife holster. Then you go in here, lock it. I'm not going to be afraid to actually just go ahead and put it on like the gun that I purposely am saving for later. So I'm making it a separate layer as a precaution in case I decide to, but and I'm just going to do a little bit of that leg is done. Now we're going to do the lower leg, lock it, wireframe it. With these characters as well, because like I said, she's got a tattoo on one, she has the holster and stuff. That makes things a bit more complicated, but the average character doesn't tend to have those kind of details. And that thigh would have been done in like 2 minutes. But this lower leg went pretty fast. Cinia, lower leg. Lock it, wireframe it. Alright, here's going to be a time saver. I mentioned before that I'm going to reuse a foot, so I'm going to grab that right now. So I have a little asset bank here that I made. And there is a foot, ready to be reused. Skin color is not going to match. That's okay. I'll fix that. In a minute, I'm going to double click on this. You're going to see all these different versions of feet. When I do the hands, I'm going to explain how all that works. For right now, to keep the momentum going, I'm just going to keep going. Now, another thing you do is right-click and go duplicate symbol, because right now this was originally Ayla's foot. It's another fairy. And these characters are eventually going to share the screen. So if they have two assets with the same name, it's going to be problematic. So I got to give it a new name. Well, it's Cinia. Copy. Now the two things won't fight each other. This skin tone is really similar, but you can see that it's not quite. So I gotta go in and fix it. Double click, you see all these different feet. So as fast as I can. It's super subtle, but I can definitely see a change as I'm doing it. I'm not sure if that's very clear to you guys on screen, depending on the resolution. So, but I promise I am doing something here. There we go. Also, I haven't done any tones yet, but since there's already tones here, let's define what Cinia's tones are going to look like. That, and we'll adjust on maybe I also need to change her toenail color. The idea is not that these characters are wearing nail polish, it's actually just that they're kind of like inner makeup is like their DNA or whatever is very bright colors, each one having their own, so it comes through in their lips and in their nails and things like that. And also their blood. Read the comic. They get into some scraps and they bleed on occasion, and their blood is varying colors. So Cinia's would be purple, and Ayla, who this foot is recycled from, would be blue. So let's figure out tone. If Quentin Tarantino's watching, he's probably loving this scene right now. Quentin's not the only one out there with a foot fetish, but probably the most famous one. This foot is weird, but obviously if I was going to be seen up close, I would probably do some drastic adjustments to it. Alright. Foot's done. Lock it, wireframe it. Gonna do the next leg. Spoiler alert for the lower leg and the other foot. I'm just gonna copy and paste what I just did there. But for the upper, the thigh, the upper leg, that I can't quite get away with that, so I need to redraw that. The angle is a little bit less universal as it gets attached to the rest of her body, but the bigger issue is that I probably couldn't make it work otherwise. But one has a tattoo and one has a holster, so. Sometimes I would start by reusing and then just modify, copy, paste, and edit. But since I know that the shape wouldn't be 100% accurate probably anyway, I might as well redraw it and make some tweaks. I will be reusing a lot of other elements later on. We'll be seeing most of which will be sped up, and you will see. Unless, of course, you're tired of all this by then, which is entirely possible, because I've already been going for 1 hour at this point. So, no one would blame you for getting a little tired of this, but hopefully this is helpful when you're learning some stuff. And if by chance you've already read Combat Fairies, maybe it's getting excited to see the end of. Or maybe you could not possibly care less. That is also a possibility as well. Okay. Tattoo here. That. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna adjust the way I do this. At this angle, it wouldn't look quite like that. Probably need to make some edits here to make this work too. I just remembered something I forgot to do when I was doing our pelvis. Thigh, thing, thigh, 2. Lock it, wireframe it. And now let's copy paste these. Control C. Lock those down here. Paste them. I'm gonna line them up as best I can. I'm gonna need to change what foot we're looking at. So, as we noticed earlier, this foot, when I double click on it, there's all these other options. So I need to pick the one that makes more sense for this angle, which would be that one. So I'm going to click on it here, and over to single frame, I'm going to pick 2. I'm going to change it to that. I'll elaborate more on how to set that up soon. Let's see what I got so far before I get in the arms, because I know that I screwed something up here, but it's an easy fix, so it's okay. And I need to basically move this up so I got a little bit more room, and also get rid of that line. It looks like it all blends. There we go. Lock everything, wireframe everything but our reference. And let's do her arm. When I do her arm, by the way, I'm going to copy and paste that exactly as it is over there. So this part's going to go nice and fast for a change. That off. F8, Cinia, upper arm, lock it, wireframe it. Layer above it. Cinia is the all-around smallest and thinnest of Combat Fairies. Some of those are quite two in particular are a bit more on the bulky side. They're still fairies, so purposely not like huge, but they definitely have a lot more going on in the musculature here. Even though it's like cartoony and subtle, it's still a bit more fun. And I have a little bit of a Popeye tendency to flare out the forearms. So what made me think to say that, because Ayla in particular is embellished quite a bit. Okay, Cinia. Forearms. Forearm one, sorry. Or just forearm. Right click, and then underneath that I'm going to add the hand. And the hand, just like the foot, I'm going to reuse this. So I'm going to go through, do the color thing on this like I already did. On the foot, and then I'm going to show you how to set up this hand thing for yourself for future reference. But let's go through and fix the color first. Also, by the way, she has some rings and things. Oh, forgot to change the name of this. Let's see that. I'm going to add those as well, but I'm going to add them very handy. All the other angles. When the lines are attached. As you see, it's a lot more hands here. Okay, let's reference the foot now. God, this part must be really boring as shit to watch it. I'm debating in my head if I should speed up this one part before I get to the main sped up part. Then I think about that, like 3 people that's just getting like the best ASMR after this. Or over this, rather. And I don't want to ruin it for them. I also believe it or not, the movie character that I took this from had even more handshakes. I eliminated some and simplified it. I just left. Okay, under her nails now. As slow and monotonous as this is, it's still obviously a lot faster than it would be to draw all these things. And when I'm actually animating it, I will be really happy to have all these hands at the ready. Again, if you're doing a new character for the first time, I would start just by doing the hands that you need for your basic pose. Create new hands as you need them on a shot-by-shot basis, but every time you do, just update your original reference build so that when you go to do another shot, those new hand shapes that you made are there, and eventually you'll find ways to reuse them, and it'll save you time in the long run. And then you get to the situation like I'm in right now, where I'm planning something completely unrelated, but you might have me for the hands and weekends for other projects. Not always, of course. There is a character that's going to appear in this short that's only got 3 fingers, so any handshakes that they need are going to need to be from scratch, because I have never animated the 3-fingered characters. In Adobe Animate. Or I don't think I have anyway, not that I remember. Fingernails are too small. God damn it. Holy shit, that was monotonous. But we're done. Don't worry, the hand's done. We don't need to do that again. Now we gotta add her bracelets. So I'm gonna do that layer above the hand, but below the forearm. And I'm gonna use the circle tool. And I'm just gonna do it like that. copy paste, I'm gonna make it a little bit thicker at one end than the other. And let's Cinia bracelets. Before I move on, I'm going to show you something really quick how to set up this hand thing. So, I'm going to do a half-assed yellow hand. Right? It's like a Simpsons character with a tan. Okay, so there is a mitten, right? So let's say I just made this hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that, I'm going to make it a symbol, I'm going to call it hand, right? And since it's a graphic, by default, you always want to make your symbols graphics, by the way. I don't know if I've said that at all so far yet, but always make them graphics. So this hand is a graphic. By default, though, it's set to loop. So I want to change that to single frame. And by doing that, no matter how many frames I have in here, you're only ever going to see this one frame unless I tell it otherwise. So if I go in here, and then I add a keyframe, so hit F7, adds a keyframe, but it's a blank keyframe. Now I can draw a new one. I can also turn the onion skin on if I want. If you're using a newer version of Flash, our onion skin might be up here. And then we circle the squares. There's like my fist, maybe, I guess. I don't know. Like that. So we go here. So if I'm animating and then I wanted to clench a fist, I would grab it, and I would change that to frame 2. And I could also go to the use frame picker and it'll actually show me what they look like. So that's how that is set up. So you would draw your first hand, make it a symbol, and basically move on. But then later on, when you want more hand options, you double click on it and add the new shape onto a new symbol. Make sure that it's set to graphic and single frame. Make sure all of your stuff is set to graphic. So let's now copy paste. We don't need the bracelets. She only wears them on the one wrist. Copy all those. Go down here, behind everything, and we're going to paste that arm, modify, transform, horizontal, and I'm going to move it inline there, just rotate it and position it a bit more. Let's also put these into a fist. Actually, let's do it bigger. I should do it. So use frame picker. Let's find a fist for her to use. Let's go with that one. Oh, use the wrong one. There we go. And for this one, it's going to be an opposite fist. Probably should be a bit of fabric there that's visible. Let's just, for now, do that. And then when I'm animating, if that comes into play at some point, I can alter it. Okay, so all we have left are her wings and her hair. I'm gonna put the wings over here, and then I'm gonna. Okay, so for her wings, I'm gonna use a dark, kind of grayish blue instead of black. The thing with Cinia's wings, the wings are transparent, but actually I'm gonna. Her wings are transparent, but the tattoos, which are these black lines, are not. Just to make things more complicated. So I got that one. this one, which is going to be somewhere in between. And actually, this one will be there. And let's get our color reference here. Fill them all in. Add the tattoos after. So, okay. Cinia, Wing, 1. Cinia, Wing, 2. Cinia, Wing, 3. And I'm going to drop the opacity in all these and grab them and go alpha. I'm going to 65 and save that from the last time we did it. And now I'm going to convert each one twice. So I want to drop the opacity in a symbol, but I don't want to drop it on something else attached to it. So I'm making it once to drop the opacity and another time to add the other element. So F8. Cinia, Wing, 1, Comp. Oops. Cinia, Wing, 2, Comp. Cinia, Wing, 3, Comp. Remove the anchor points on all of these. Put them into position. So we got one that's kind of like that, and one that stretches out a little bit farther than I originally had. That. Oops. Like that. There we go. And then this one's going to go all the way up there. And then rotate down like that. Now I'm going to add the tattoo. So double click, lock it, new layer, black line, zoom in a little bit here. Fill it in with black. By the way, I just went over here to see if I can close small gaps because it wasn't filming properly. Don't know if I mentioned that yet. Do that, and then also use the paintbrush. That detail. Over here, we got another one. one more. All the way down here behind everything. And we're going to copy and paste them. And we're going to flip them. And we're going to move them over here. Oops. And we're going to fake the perspective by squishing them in a bit and shrinking them down a bit. So now the only thing we have left is her giant ass long hair that goes all the way down here. And that hangs behind everything. So let's go to the top for that one as well, and then we'll bring it down. Actually, let's also wireframe. For this one, I am going to use the pencil tool. I draw a bit more freely, or at least for the start of it anyway. I'm going to go ahead and fill in the color for it, and then I'll add the extra more details. Save them like crazy, because if it crashed on me now, I would not be happy. In the comic, I actually imply a lot of shading with the hair based on how closely I clustered the line work in it. But I don't want to rely on that for the animation because it's not practical redrawing these types of lines with any kind of regularity. So the weave, so to speak, of the lines is not going to be anywhere near as tight as what I do in the comic book. But I will add some other additional effects on top to apply a little bit more texture. Okay, that works for now. Okay. Zinnia back hair. Actually, three-quarter back hair, even though it's not growing out of her back. Okay. Now let's move down here. Unwireframe everything, unlock everything. I'm going to actually delete my color ref because all the color reference I need now I can get from her. So I'm going to make a master comp. F8. Zinnia 3/4 comp. So we're going to combine everything just like you did with the head. We don't want to do it individually for like the arms and stuff like that. But we want to have it for the head because the other stuff that can happen inside of it, and the rest is all going to be just contained all in one together. So I'll call this 3/4. Save it. Now you're going to double click. Again, just like with the head, everything inside the symbol, this master symbol, is on one layer. But as long as there's symbols themselves individually, they won't get merged. So now if I right click and I go distribute to layers, we'll bust them all up on separate layers. There you go. So I'm going to do the tones as well before I start speeding things up for the other angles. But before I do that, let's do our anchor point. So the transform tool, click on the head, move the anchor point. Some of this I did as I went, most of it I didn't. So head goes to the neck goes to the shoulder, upper arm goes to the mid, or upper torso goes to the midriff goes to the waist, upper arm goes to the shoulders, forearms go to the elbows, hands go to the wrist. Those are going to be anchored from there if they move. Thighs go to the hips. Lower legs go to the knees, and the feet go to the ankle when we're done. And the hair is going to need to go all the way up to the back of the head. So let's start adding tones. By comparison, this will go fast, but there's still a lot to go through. So I already defined what her shadow color looks like with the feet, so I'm going to color pick from there to start. And let's have at it. I'm going to do her eyelids first because her eyelids are just going to make that darker shade. Double clicking, it's all selected, so I can go here and change everything. So that's nice and quick. Now we can get a little bit more specific. So let's do her eyes. Select. I'm going to use the pencil tool with a red pencil. And I'm going to draw in where I want the shadow to fall. And then I'm going to fill it in. And then I'm going to double click on the red to select it. And I'm going to hit delete. This is already so dark, I don't think I'm even going to bother adding one, but I will imply that it's casting a mild shadow underneath. Let's do her nose now. That's casting a shadow underneath. I'm also going to do a black, subtle black shadow going into there. So that. Black nose. Get rid of that. Still left them. Pick that again because we're not done with this tone. Her skull. I'm going to turn the wireframe on so you can see what I'm doing. So we're going to have a layer of black shadow that I'm going to do something like that. And then something like that. It's weird on its own. You don't want to get too crazy specific with your shadows, by the way, because stuff's going to move. In a perfect world, we'd be animating our shadows. That's not really the most practical thing to do with this style of kind of cutout animation. So You kind of want to do a tone on there that isn't so specific it's going to look weird. You want to kind of do this almost sort of one-size-fits-all approach to it. If your shadows are too specific, then when something that doesn't make sense anymore, everybody's going to notice. Even somebody that doesn't know their shadow physics super well is going to know that something's wrong, even if they can't quite pinpoint what it is. While I'm in here, I'll do those ear studs as well. We'll start with the ears themselves, so let's put a darker black shadow inside. And then we'll put bit, and then we're also going to a glare because it's over shiny. We got more skin to deal with, but let's do your earrings as well, since we just figured out that tone. Okay, let's go back. Start focusing on the skin again. As I update this, it's going to update that as well, so I don't need to go in and add tones independently to the two arms. You don't have to do the black bit. This is just because this is based on a comic book and doing the heavy blacks. I'm not loading it up with spot blacks as much as I would in the comic because again, it'll be too specific. and look weird in motion. So I'm trying to be a little bit more generalized, but adding little touches of black shadow adds the comic bookiness of it. So we'll start with the let's grab the darker shade of the black, or the dark gray, whatever it is. So there. By the way, these for black, so click on the color wheel and just drag this down to make it darker. Move here, and we gotta gaps. Fix it. Now let's get rid of that red. Now it's just being a dick. Let's just divide it. Cut it. There we go. I'm gonna pick a slightly lighter shade of this purple. Add a highlight to it, and then I'm also going to do a kind of non-specific generic black highlight while it's casting a reflection, and then on the other side we'll do white. Now before I move on from this, I'm going to grab this, I'm going to go Control-C, maybe predict why. But I'm not going to tell you. You'll find out. Let's continue on down to the midriff. Let's turn this on so I can get a sense of where the shadows on your floor. You might, on occasion, you can modify your shadows a little bit for specific poses to make sure things line up the way they need to. Most of it, if you keep it subtle and you line it properly, it won't be an issue. But sometimes Let's do the holster. Highlight there as well. Alright, let's keep going with the skin. I think you could call this a ninja diaper. I'm gonna go with ninja diaper. So they're managing stuff now. By the way, if you change the shape of a symbol and then you double click on it, it will be a little buggy, like your line work. Not really encountering it too much here, but that can happen. So you're retroactively editing a symbol, and it's doing some weird, the lines just aren't clean, they're getting really jagged and stuff. There's a pretty good chance that's the reason for it. Back to the skin. Ugh. That. Let's zoom in here. This strap. Now you might be remembering I copied something recently, and that is so that I don't need to redo the tones here. Holster, knife sheath, whatever makes sense. And now for the blade itself, dagger. Okay. Back to that skin color. As I edit this leg, you're going to see the other one update automatically. Since we're side by side, I'm sure. See? Told you. more details in the head, and I got her hair, and that's it. And then I'll be taking a bit of a breather, but then I'll come back and record myself doing that one. So those, like I've said a few times already at this point, I'll be speeding up. Because I think you'll get the idea just from watching all this. And of course you can replay it because it's a video. That's how videos work. But you'll also give you the repetition of seeing the sped up version after it might drill into other things and give you some tips to watch this. Okay, so basically it's her hat and her eye whites and her hair. So let's do that. Let's do the eye whites first. So essentially it's going to be like a pale gray, but I'm going to try to apply a little bit of purple in there as well. Like I said, she has purple blood, so that would show. Let's start with black, then we'll do the highlight. And I'm purposely saving the darker one for last because I'm going to need that again in a second, so it'll still already be colored. Go, and now just the hair. Brush, a small one, and I'm going to choose paint fills. And with that, in the smallest brush size I can, just trying to get extra bits of hair texture. I'm going to do some highlights as well, but I'll save them for after. I'll do a little dark stuff first. That. bit. Add some of these lines like I said. Now we're gonna add a highlight. A little bit of one anyway. There's much a tuner version of it. Do even lighter one as well. A little bit of this first. Obviously, you could be way more precise with this than I'm being, but it layers up, it gets a pretty good effect. And okay, I can do one more pass where I go even lighter. I'm not going to do too many lines like this. Just do a couple. Probably won't do any of those very well. Doing this all with notes, by the way. I would recommend using tablet for it, probably, if you want to get some of this, but whatever it works. Okay. Okay, so there is the first angle of Cinia. So I'm gonna do the rest, but I'm gonna speed that up. I'm just gonna mention a couple things before I do that. When I do that, you're gonna notice, and I'm probably gonna speed it up by like a couple 1,000%, so it's gonna be going pretty fast. But what you're gonna notice while you're watching it is I'm reusing a lot of parts as much as possible. Most of the facial features, with some exceptions here and there, I'll have to remake. I could probably reuse the ears. I might be able to reuse one of her eyes for like the front view and things like that. Most of the time I need to redraw most of the facial stuff, and same thing with her torso stuff. Her arms and legs I'm going to copy and paste as much as possible, and reuse as much as possible. And you're also going to notice that even when I need to change an element like part of her torso, I'm going to copy and paste what I have, line it up as close as I can, double click on it, and then make new frames where I do the alternate version of it, kind of like I should do with the hands. And the reason for that is so that mid-animation, if she rotates like part of her body, I don't need to like copy and paste and switch the symbol. I can just change it to the angle that makes sense. She might twist at her waist and things like that. So it just makes things a little bit easier, gives some more options. So so that's gonna be it for me talking. If you're brave enough to watch what's left, stick around. Like I said, I'm gonna speed it up a lot, so it's probably, my guess is only gonna do about 5 minutes. So I don't know. So if you're gonna stick around, then enjoy, and if not, thanks for watching all of this so far. That was pretty exhausting. I don't know how long I've been going. I think it's been at least 2 hours, maybe 3. Anyway, yeah. So there you go. All right.